Good morning, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. We are talking about money given by the United Kingdom to people who need help, and this money is known as universal credit. We are looking at the housing costs. Let us see what happens when you want to work out your housing costs. Visit the gov.uk and also other websites online in the United Kingdom or wherever you may find those information about the United Kingdom. It's about the United Kingdom government. So thank you so much, everyone who have been supporting this channel, subscribing and sharing the videos with family and friends. And I'm so happy that you are been participating, leaving comments, and giving really some useful feedback. And I'm so happy. Let us look at housing element, housing costs. Watch this video and the rest of the video. This is a continuation of the other videos. So once you know your room allowance, you need to work out how much of your housing costs you are liable for. We talked about liability. We talked about other factors. Leave a comment below. Watch this video and the rest of the other videos, and you therefore add together the housing costs for your property, the rent and service charges. So we've talked about rent and service charges. If someone other than you are other than yourself is also liable for this cost, check if they are a listed person and find out for yourself what a listed person is. Proper listed person is somebody who is included. So listed persons are yourself, your partner, if you have one, any child or qualifying young person you have, or your partner, and any young person you or your partner are responsible for. These are examples of listed person. So if the only people who are liable for the housing costs are listed persons, the amount used to work out your housing element will be the total housing cost for the property. So this is how to work out the housing element. If someone else is also liable, then they aren't a listed person. You will need to divide the total housing cost by the number of people who are liable, multiply that number by the number of listed persons. Then the amount you are left with is the housing cost you are liable for, and the amount used to work out your housing element. The Department of Work and Pension have the power to change how they work out liability. For example, if one liable person used 2 of the 3 bedrooms, it might be reasonable if they were liable for additional housing costs. There isn't guidelines on what the Department of Work and Pension considers to be unreasonable, and each decision is made case by case. If you need help challenging the Department of Work and Pension decision, contact the expert advice team. And I've already said before about expert advice team that they are extremely good in what they do, except to say there are limited resources everywhere within the public sector and also within the social sector. Let us look at number 3 as a point involving the housing element. We have already said elsewhere that housing element is actually a function of the universal credit. So when we're looking at these different aspects, we are actually examining the housing element. Which housing element is actually relevant in terms of the help, the universal credit help given to those who need help for their housing costs. We have examined this in other videos. If you watch them, alternatively, you can actually visit the gov.uk or other websites such as Citizen Advice public website. Number 3, therefore, we are looking at to find out your housing elements amount before any deductions. So you need to check the maximum amount you can get before any deductions. There are different steps depending on your pace of your payments of rent. On who actually pay your rent. These are specific information. So if you pay rent to a private landlord, you take consideration to look at the amount you pay. And what you pay, the amount you pay, the amount you get depends on your room allowance and the local housing allowance, LHA. We have made reference to LHA, an acronym meaning local housing allowance. So local housing allowance are actually the rate of payment for the housing costs in relation to when someone is renting privately. So you will consider the LHA rate for your area. This information is relevant and also inconsistent, you see, with localism, the policy of localism, in which no one local authority is the same with another local authority. Each local authority tend to create their own policy to implement, depending on their circumstances. And this is something I totally disagree with, because the way these policies are created actually based on political other than reality consideration. In the sense that there are areas where people are wealthier than others in the United Kingdom. No one local authority is the same. The richer the area, the less they spend public money. Public monies are often means tested. It means they are spent if people need it in terms of their eligibility, and these criteria are actually based on means testing. So you can check your LHA rate, local housing allowance rate, using local housing area calculator on gov.uk. Remember at the outset, especially in the previous videos, I have referred you to gov.uk, which is the primary website for the UK government. And such a government website can also be similarly applicable in your country, and for the UK is gov.uk. So in such a situation, either you will be paid this amount, or the amount of the housing cost you might be liable for, whichever is less. So the calculator gives you a weekly amount, multiplying it by 52, and then dividing it by 12 to get a monthly amount. This is the formula. Leave a comment below if this is interesting, or if you think it is not interesting, leave a comment below. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you have subscribed, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and leave a comment below. Click the notification bell and click like and share this video with family and friends. Thank you so much. If you are under 35 years and your room allowance is 1 bedroom, you might be paid the shared accommodation rate. In the United Kingdom, especially within the housing sector, with the public housing sector, a lot of people are bound to share rooms, especially if they are single or some other type of individual. So you can check for eligibility are for shared accommodation rate. If you pay rent to a council or other association, this is something you can also take into account. Housing association being part of the social housing, which is a process of privatizing public sector, created in the 1980s by the Margaret Thatcher's premiership under the Conservative Authority. Now, other associations replacing council housing waters down security of tenancy. It is a bad policy for people who need help, legitimate help from the UK government. And if you ask me if there is a government in the UK for the people of Britain, then I am inviting such a government to reverse policies such as on other association, closing the same down, taking this property away, or giving them right, even if they as other association giving them right of tenancy to their tenants, as in the system of security of tenancy. So now, looking at housing association, so your housing element will cover the housing cost you are liable for, unless the bedroom tax applies as to your situation. I have already made references to the bedroom tax, which I said was wrong. Bedroom tax simply is a statement by the government to say your housing allowance is inappropriate in the sense of under occupation. If you have 3-bedroom house and you're living there alone, or just 2 people and 1 extra room is empty, under occupied, then in terms of allowance of as to how many rooms you should have, you are actually found to be 1-bedroom extra, contrary to the rule of housing allowance, of room allowance. As a result, you will be bedroom taxed. And bedroom tax is a stealthy tax by the government of the United Kingdom to make British people poor. People already in need of housing benefit, and housing benefit being poor per se, and making them poorer. And this is a willful policy, and it's also, in my opinion, is a form of recklessness. So the bedroom taxes apply if you are actually the only person liable for the housing costs, or if the people liable for the housing costs are all listed persons. Listed person we have already referred to as people who are actually having one status or another. If you have 1 more bedroom over your room allowance, and your housing element will be reduced by 14%. That is the formula of reduction for bedroom tax for a single room, for 1 room over and above the allowable number of rooms. If you have 2 or more bedrooms over your room allowance, your housing element amount will be reduced by 25%. This is a policy of impoverishment. It's wrong, and in my opinion, the UK government should scrap bedroom tax policy immediately. And my hope is that a more sensible government will be in power following the next election, and the bedroom tax, in my opinion, is the one to be scrapped off. Let us look at other examples. And if you pay rent at your housing association and live with your partner and a child, this is a situation, an example, a scenario. Both you and your partner are liable for the rent, say for example £600 a month, and you live in a 3-bedroom property and your room allowance is 2 bedrooms. As you and your partner are both listed persons, the bedroom tax will reduce your housing element. You will be reduced by 14% as you have 1 more room than your room allowance allows. So 14% of 600 is going to equal to £84. 600 minus 84 is equal to 500 to 16. 516 will be your housing element because a reduction of £84 will have been applied. I believe this is wrong and it should be stopped by a government which think about people more than money. I have observed on this video and elsewhere to say the UK government is increasingly becoming more corrupt because he thinks more about money and wealth than human life. You are living in a country where the government has cheapened itself to value money and wealth more than people. I say this is a recipe for violence, for warfare, and not wanting peace. And I've already said elsewhere and here that there is all often no peace with the wicked. And so the wicked government, such as the one we find in the United Kingdom, abusing poor people is a wicked government, and there is no peace for such a government. If we find another government which cares about people, and this is the criteria of wickedness, anyone or anything or any body or any individual who doesn't care about people is a wicked thing or person. And therefore, the government which implement bedroom tax is a wicked government because it doesn't care about the British people. The one who doesn't pay full housing benefit as found in benefit cap is a wicked government. The one who pay low level of benefit is a wicked government. The one who does not impose support the minimum wage, which get the British people out of poverty, is a wicked government. Also, let us see if we can get a righteous government one day in Britain, so that we begin to carve our way away from a violent state towards a peaceful society, respecting people, whether they are rich or poor. We have become a country where if your value is actually consistent with how much money, how much bank balance you have, and that is a form of wickedness, because people should be valued for who they are, not for what they are, for how much money they have, whether they are billionaires and millionaires, and then they are worshipped as if they are demigods. This is a form of wickedness. Whatever government appears to or actually reverent wealth over the value of humanity, in essence, whether you are poor or rich, you are respected for your humanity and you are treated in a rich country like Britain with enough wealth to get you out of poverty, then that is the roadmap to peace. And then we begin a road, our journey to achieve our cultural economic preponderance, if we want to use that word. We begin to be dominant as culturalists, people who are noted in the world for having respect for self and for others. I have said this over and over and over. I'm so happy. I have been saying it. The people who support me say yes. People who don't support me say yes also, because one way or the other, we are all in this together, and I'm happy you came to visit on this channel. Let us continue watching. Let us, keep tuned. Stay tuned onto this channel. I'm so happy you come and continue watching. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Leave a comment below. It's nice to talk. We have a telecommunication company in the United Kingdom called BT, British Telecom. Their advert, their slogan is that it is good to talk. So I say it is good to talk. Let us continue talking. Leave a comment below. And let me know what you know about public policy in the United Kingdom. Let me know what you don't know about public policy in the United Kingdom. And let us talk, do a research. If you are a child, if you're an adult, it is good for you, it's good for your community, it's good for your family. And this is what I invite everybody around across the globe to do. Take responsibility for your life. No issue is too small or too big to be neglected. And so let us be responsible citizens and people who contribute toward the peace of the world. And this, in my dispensing, in my providing discourse on this platform, I'm trying to extend a view, produce a voice for the many and not for just the few. I have nothing about the few in what I can only describe as being filthy rich, being multimillionaires, being multi-billionaires. They are humans. We need to respect their humanity. We need to respect them for being rich. I'm not saying we shouldn't respect rich wealth or rich people. I didn't say we shouldn't respect people. We should respect everybody, but we should shun wickedness. Whether you are in government, whether you are out of government, whether you are a child, whether you are an adult, male, female, rich, poor, we are both human, and we deserve the best. We deserve to be treated with respect because of being human, not because of the size of our wallets, not or bank account or bank balance. We are to be respected. Humanity will always maintain its specialty. Going back to this information, there are some exceptions to the bedroom tax. For example, if someone will live with you in your home, for example, is temporarily absent. I'm talking about their policies. The principle and the practice, the policy may be wrong, but because it is government policy, we have to comply with. And that is the dilemma. Because once the government set a policy, you must comply with. So staying, if you're in the UK, to be ignorant about government policy of any sort is your undoing. And therefore, everybody must take responsibility. Every adversaries, people who fight against innocent people, against poor people, every wrong thing or every right thing happening in this country is an opportunity. Let us look at it. Let us be positive about every wrong thing, every nasty situation, every dangerous world situation. Let us be positive because we are humans. We are given to prosperity. It's our inheritance. So we will win in the end. Also, these exceptions apply if somebody living with you, or perhaps you yourself is temporarily absent, and you are living in a home with extra bedrooms, contrary to the policy of room allowance which the government has set, the violating of which result into benefit reduction, and not to mention our difficulty or even the impossibility of accessing housing within the public sector. I mean to say, if the government thinks somebody is under occupying their home, for example, somebody has 3 bedrooms, but only 2 people live there, so there is 1 extra bedroom excessively, available in the home. Under these circumstances, I mean, what is so difficult for the British government to give to the British people appropriate property? Give somebody a 2-bedroom house from the government, which doesn't exist. If you are not given a house, you are given to dry. You are given to hang out there to dry. Without a proper housing, the government doesn't have a policy of housing because he doesn't have any housing. They give excuses all the time. And that is an evil thing. Everybody listening should remember, you need to define evil in your own terms, on your own terms. So look, if you're temporarily absent, somebody living with you is temporarily absent because they are coming back to occupy the 1 extra bedroom, so you are not going to be charged. But how long will the government wait? Another exception to is somebody disabled and cannot share a room. Because in a home, there are some people who are sick or disabled, who are, by virtue of their disability or sickness, are unable to share a room with other people. So they need extra room, perhaps also somebody else needing overnight care. or perhaps somebody recently died and left a room empty. I don't know how long for the year need to die before you are taxed. And to my mind, I think this policy is so evil. Even if the people setting it are not necessarily evil, but the policy itself is evil. The fish rotting from the head this rottenness must have trickled down some of the brains of the people who produce this policy. I mean to say, there are excuses. You are shutting down the public sector. We know that because the money being pumped onto any public sector, including the military, the police, the healthcare, education, housing, benefit, employment, all this money is being pumped in there are used to build capital in terms of capital investment and infrastructure. It's about wealth creation. These wealth are being concentrated into the hands of the many, into the hands of the few. The wealth being taken from the hands of the few, of the many. Every time the UK government talks of spending money on public sector, they are giving this money to the super rich, taking it from this many who are very poor, in terms of this money being invested in capital and infrastructure. You look at a hospital, it looks like a five-star hotel and they are empty, they are ghost towns. You look at a tax office, they look like five-star hotel and they are empty and ghost towns. The government is hiding behind building capital and infrastructure to impress the public. When these systems are ghost towns, they are not functioning. We need spending on policy, on frontline service. We want more doctors paid adequately, teachers paid decently. We need healthcare workers. We need care workers. We need more care homes supported by the government. At the front line, at the policy, we may need also capital investment. There are so many capital and investment happening in the country. There are a lot of housing within the council, within the housing association, which are empty, which are actually looking like luxury hotels, which are empty. They are actually being hoarded by the super rich people who now run the public sector privately. Within there are new buses are being bought. They are not being deployed on the road. Where are they taking these buses? They are recorded as being government spending on public sector. And if you ask the government, there is a long waiting list in waiting list on the public housing. They will quote figures of how much money they have spent on the public sector. They are trying to accuse people of being many in number, and that is false. Of doing something mysteriously so that the money, it doesn't matter how much money the government pumped onto the system, it disappears. That is fantasy world. What the government is doing, willfully or otherwise, is pumping money to create more wealth for the super rich, who are few, taking this money away, refusing to spend this money on frontline services, refusing to spend this money on policy objectives, which is what people benefit from directly. If you don't have enough housing, it means houses are being built, but they are not being given. Probably they are being sold off, especially by housing association. Because housing association is part of social housing. If they build new houses and new houses are not being allocated for people who are homeless, which means they are selling this property and putting the money into their pocket. And the government is keeping quiet because he doesn't want to regulate this organization. They are very special. They're too special to be regulated, to be inspected, to be, made accountable for how they spend the public money. And this is a problem in the United Kingdom, problem in Europe, in America, in all the continents, including in Africa. You find a city or a town empty in Africa, looking like the best city in Africa, in Europe or America. They look like paradise on earth. There is nobody there. You find security guards or cleaners or caretakers roaming these cities and towns. They are empty places. You see, houses being built and nobody is occupying them. A country like Rwanda is an example. You find posh hotels, expensive, I don't know how many stars, 5-star hotels, you name them. They're empty. The receptionists are there. Inside it is dark. And these are monies being given to Africa by European IMF and the World Bank. They are specifically instructed to build roads, bridges, and towns and cities which are empty. People are not occupying them. A lot of homeless people in Uganda, in Africa, being denied access to food, clean water, because African government are not providing clean water to its people. They are not providing housing. They are not providing education. Education is too expensive in Africa. And this is a story across the globe. If Europeans or whoever abuses poor people in one place, they are going to be abusing people. They hide behind policies such as immigration policy. Immigrants abused in the developed world are actually from poor background. Rich people who are immigrants coming to European cities or even into Africa are treated like gods. There is no mentioning that they are being drowned at sea if they are billionaires and multi-billionaires. If immigrants are being abused because of poverty, if you are in a country where your government is and your countries are killing people, allowing people to die at sea because they are poor, they are not valued, they are treated worse than animals. If you see a certain category of people are being abused and you keep quiet, next time it's going to be you. Like playing a lottery, it could be you. If you're a British national, you see foreigners coming here, poor foreigners, being abused, being called names, and there are not even many. And yet multi-billionaires and multi-billionaires coming here are treated like demigods. And you laugh, you are happy, thinking that your problems are created by immigrants. Then one day, the sword which kills these people, who abuses these people, allowing people to die at sea, will one day turn against you. If you are British national, if you are poor, if you are actually the 90% who are not millionaires and billionaires, the world will be your nightmare. We, the people, must take responsibility today for our life and also begin the process of holding our government into account. Enough evil is enough. Keep quiet and be responsible for the destruction of so many people up and down the continents of the world. And this is the truth. When I go through this process, I'm trying to illustrate the behavior of the government in a policy. How can in the world, in a country so rich, you refuse to pay money to the British people to get them out of poverty? How can you refuse to support industries, to provide decent jobs, well-paid jobs, to get the British people out of poverty? And when I talk of Britain, I have the globe and other countries on my mind, because these are experiencing the same thing. We are operating globally an extremist right-wing dictatorship across the globe called globalization. Globalization is a cover for nasty people, dangerous people in power, trying to promote violence. It is not accidental that you find wars in the Middle East, wars in Asia, between Russia and Ukraine. Ordinary people, poor people are the ones dying. It's as if to say there's a conspiracy to destroy poor people of the face of the earth by manufacturing wars. When was the last time did you see a rich person, multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires, dying at the war theater, suffering, fighting wars they don't understand, fighting wars which are not necessary? Why are we fighting? Internationally, intergovernmentally, individuals are watching dangerous movies. Culturally, we are dying. You talk about depressing information. You think the world is enough. You think the world is not enough. Maybe you are right, maybe you are not. Take a step back. If this information is depressing, then it is. Because it is actually a sign of the times. We see evil. We hear evil. We speak evil and we ignore evil at our own peril. We have to change our minds and focus on what is right. We are the solution. We created this problem as a collection of people living on the earth. There is problem, and we can solve this problem. If we change our mind, we do the right thing. And that is why I'm talking. I mean to say, if you go to the hospital, you are going to be given a diagnosis. If you have cancer, the doctor is not going to say, you have something nice in your body. For people who think life is really nice, I wish you all the best. If you go to the hospital and you're sick, and you're diagnosed with a cancer, terminally ill diseases, they say, okay, you're going to do really well in the next 6 months. And then he says, because you're going to die and rest in peace. Okay, that is a nice way to convey what is really, tragic news. And that I can do that. I can tell you society is actually facing extinction. But we are going to rest in peace. Because we are children of God. And it's good for you if you believe in God, like I do. But no God said we should die before our time. We are here to serve God. I'm a Christian. And I give thanks to the Lord. But I also thank the missionaries, the British missionaries especially, who go and colonize my country and told me Christianity. I learned about God. And when we begin to talk about God, we are here to serve God by doing what is right. And if you are a member of the royal family, I pray for God to bless your souls, to bless your hearts. Because King Charles in the United Kingdom is the head of the Church of England. He is a holy man, or there he should be a holy man. And being a Christian as he is, I expect King Charles to speak to his government, his Royal Majesty government, to get the British people out of poverty. I expect Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, to speak with His Majesty, the King, and the rest of the royal family to get the British people out of poverty today. Britain is the sixth richest country in the world. America, Russia, all these, Canada, these European countries, all these development, nobody in a day should be in poverty, including in Africa. There is enough wealth to go around. It is the right thing to do. This policy I'm inspecting is evidence that the government is negligent. A non-dependent deduction. Number 4, looking at the information. These are actually categories that I've criticized over and over. Number 4, we can check if non-dependence will reduce your housing element. We talk about housing element, which is a financial support for housing costs in the United Kingdom given to people who need it. Poor people, in other words. Extremely poor people who should not be existing in the United Kingdom. Nobody should be on benefit. Unless the benefit is going to get them out of poverty. If they are working, they should be, even if they get a minimum wage, a living wage, a national minimum wage or a national living wage, whatever you name them, let the level go up to get the British people out of poverty today. No pain, no gain. There is no point waiting even for a day. Today, the British people must get out of poverty by the help of a good government. We want a good government in the United Kingdom. We do not do wrong governments. Please, if you are a wrong government, move deliberately. Keep the British people out of in poverty. Get out of power. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired in this country. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired in Europe, in America, in Africa, in Asia. These are the continents of the world, the key continents of the world. And you go there, you find poverty. It is wrong. It is violent. It is evidence of evil, of doing what is wrong. We must revisit our cultural economy and begin to doing what is right, removing every child of God out of poverty immediately. If you are under the sound of my voice, you're listening to this, speak to your member of parliament today and ask them in the UK, wherever you are, get the British people out of power. If you campaign for environmental protection, the first thing for you to say, get the British people out of poverty first and then protect our environment. Look after our military, after the police, after our security system. You look at our medical system, our healthcare system, our housing system. Look at our transportation and our school. And that is what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the housing system in relation to money given to the British people, because this money are categorized differently. We are looking at a non-dependent deduction which would reduce your housing elements. So a non-dependent deduction is a housing policy. Also, it's a cocktail of housing and benefit system. A non-dependent deduction is someone who lives with you, with someone like you, who the Department of Work and Pension expect to pay their own share of rent. Watch this video and watch the rest of the video. I've explained this. I said then and now that I will be repeating these points going forward because they are repeatable, in my opinion, for people to get a grip. And my invitation for the many or the few now watching my video to continue watching, share with family and friends, be an ambassador of this great channel, of this great videos, content, be an ambassador of peace, so to speak, because I speak because of peace. I want to be happy. I want everyone to be happy, because if you are living in peace, then you are happy. And that is why I am talking about this material. I'm looking at this material to illustrate to raise different issues, to illustrate all this, aspect of public policy in the United Kingdom, which I said what happens in the United Kingdom necessarily also happens across the globe, because we are in an age where our government is actually implementing, or it has already established the system of globalization, which is, in my opinion, is because of capitalism, because an extreme version of capitalism. We are increasingly degenerating into an empires of extreme right-wing politics, which is ideologically driven, which is very dangerous. It is now producing an unbelievable form of violence across the globe. People are not fighting for nothing. Young people are not committing suicide for nothing. Committing suicide is an example of violence, social violence, born of our cultural failure. When we fail to respect humanity, we respect wealth. I invite respecting wealth as being the right thing to do, but I say it's a priority to respect humanity more, over and above any other materialistic thing. And this must be the procedure. This must be the state of affairs. Listen to my voice and leave a comment below, and my gratitude for your attending to watch this video and sharing it with the rest of the world. And let's keep on looking at this particular policy on the housing element. If you want to know what an housing element is, watch this video and the rest of the video. Visit gov.uk, the website of the UK government, and also the rest of the other non-profit organizations, especially the corporate ones, the big ones, such as Citizen Advice, public website. You will find this information. Teach yourself, because with knowledge there is power, and that is the idea. The idea of the government's website is a good idea, or other website is an opportunity for citizens of the world to be empowered. Information is power. If you get it, the more the merrier. And that's why I'm producing this material. And it is a challenging process. So a non-dependent non-dependent person is someone who lives with someone like you in your property, who the Department of Work and Pension. The Department of Work and Pension is a government department responsible for giving this help. The Department of Work and Pension expect such a person to pay their own share of rent. So, for example, your child who have already grown into an adult, or a child who is still a minor at 16 years and above, who is not really in full-time education, they are now treated as non-dependent adults for purposes of non-dependent deduction, which actually affect the housing element, the money given for the housing cost as part of your universal credit entitlement. So common non-dependents include parents, grown children, friends, and relatives, but not joint tenants or lodgers. If you are a joint tenant, you are not considered a non-dependent deduction. No, a non-dependent. Or a lodger, somebody who is renting from somebody else. You are a lodger or a tenant. A tenant is somebody who rents from a landlord. You are not a non-dependent in the policy on in terms of this policy. So whatever type of tenancy you have, your housing element will be reduced by 85.73 each month for each non-dependent who lives with you. This is called non-dependent deduction or housing cost contribution. They use colorful words in vain. The policy is wrong and it should be scrapped. Non-dependent deduction is a redundant policy produced by a lazy government which do not understand the value of humanity to protect the British people. British people, because of poverty, they are actually abused as if they are slaves other than citizens. I mean, a true government, a credible government, do not treat its citizens as if they are slaves. The British people are citizens. Britain is a sovereign state, should be proud of itself. The British people are proud of their country, but the UK government has cheapened itself to treat the British people as if they are slaves and no longer citizens. And this abuse is actually coordinated across the globe. Country like Britain being a ringleader. And these abuses are actually worse in Africa, where people are now facing extinction. Africans are facing extinction. There are some of the worst barbaric, dangerous dictators ruling Africa. And we don't know where they come from. They probably come from the outer space. Probably they are aliens. And you talk about depression. You lecture me about depression if you want to. But there's no peace for the wicked. We have to tell the truth the way it is. If they were doing the right thing, we were going to talk about nice things. And so continue watching. Thank you so much for your watching. There are exceptions to the non-dependence rule, as always. So every rule, there are exceptions to the rules. The Department of Work and Pension won't make any non-dependent deduction if you or your partner is certified severely sight impaired or blind. If you are very sick, in other words, then you are not dependent deducted, if I could say that. Or if you're getting attendance allowance. Attendance allowance is also a sickness benefit for elderly people. Getting the middle or highest care component of disability living allowance. The middle or highest care component of disability living allowance. Disability living allowance are sickness benefit which are non-tested for children. So getting a disability living allowance component of personal independence, getting a daily living component of personal independence payment is a non-means tested sickness benefit for people who are of normal age, who are not children or pensionable age. So if you're also getting armed forces for independent payment, if you're in the army, so the parent work and pension won't make deduction for a non-dependent deduction who is under 21, responsible for a child under 5 in prison. Your child or stepchild who is in armed forces or away on operation, if they live with you before leaving and plan to return, these are the categories. The Department of Work and Pension also won't make deduction for a non-dependent who's getting carers allowance, pension credit, attendance allowance, the middle or highest care component of disability living allowance, the daily living component of personal independence payment, armed forces independent payment. So we are going to look at rent-free weeks, which we did in the other videos. Watching the other videos alongside this will complement your information basis. So if some people will have rent-free weeks, for example, during Christmas, with the end of the financial year, these do reduce your housing element, but its advantage across, its average across the whole year rather than just the months with the rent-free weeks. So if you get 2 weeks rent-free, your housing element, which is benefit given for housing, is reduced across the board throughout the year, so that you can be sustained because for the rest of the month. But I don't get it because, see, if it is given for 2 weeks, then for 2 weeks you shouldn't get a housing element. Straightforward. And that's also a wrong policy. So if you are rent-free for 2 weeks in a year, then you should not get a housing element for 2 weeks in a year. You are not deducted. Your rents are not reduced throughout the year. That is a wrong policy. It's like the Department of Work and Pension are acting like thieves who are always keen to rob at every opportunity. So let's look at example. Steve, if somebody called Steve doesn't have, somebody might not have any rent-free weeks. You are in a situation where you might not have any rent-free weeks. So your monthly housing element will be worked out by multiplying your weekly rent by 52 weeks, then dividing that amount by 12 to get a monthly amount. So this is actually trying to reduce your benefit before you die. They should have waited for you to die first and steal your money. Someone else, another example, somebody else has 4 rent-free weeks a year. So their monthly housing element will be worked out by multiplying their weekly rent by 48 and then dividing that amount by 12. So they get reduced throughout the year in terms of the money given to them. So we are trying to look at calculating housing elements for 2 homes. We have looked at this information before. Like I said previously, we may, from time to time, be repeating some of these points. Both homes are privately rented, or both are social housing. You can work out the amounts as usual and add them together. So you work them individually, the amounts for the 2 homes, and add them together. One is private and the other one is social. Usually work them out as if they are both private tenancies and add the amounts together. So this is the mysteries. Working them out as private tenancies is a mystery only the government knows the intelligibility of. So this means the social tenancy housing element will be based on the local housing allowance rather than on their actual rent. Every time the government begins to behave like this, they are planning to give you less money, stealing even what they already stolen. And I use that word with care. There are two situations where you should work out one home as social and the other as private when you are adopting a property for disability, non-dependent deduction only come off the old ones. Fairly complex when we get there in the end. If you are living elsewhere because of the risk of domestic violence or abuse, non-dependent deduction only come off the home where you are occupying. You can live in two places at once, one or the other of where you live, especially where you are living, will be subjected to non-dependent deduction. So local authorities and housing associations sometimes cut tenants' rent to encourage them to pay their rent on time. This is called a tenant incentive scheme. So you cut tenants' rent sometimes to encourage them to pay their rent on time. This is called a tenant incentive scheme. Leave a comment below if you understand what is being said. If you don't, leave a comment below as well. Thank you so much for being a participant, a faithful one, watching this channel, also sharing with family and friends. Being on a tenant incentive scheme won't change your housing element. The lower rents won't cause them to get less universal credit. This is the result of the Universal Credit Tenant Incentive Scheme Amendment Regulation 2017. This is the law on which this policy operates. Tenant Incentive Scheme Amendment Regulation 2017. We're looking at mortgages and home loans. If you live in the UK, perhaps in Europe or any part of the development, but increasingly also in the developing world, you will know what mortgages are. They are loans. Some of them are called home loans, perhaps because of their statuses, but mortgage is a form of credit system. Loans are also a form of credit system. You borrow and then you have to pay it back with interest. The housing element won't pay for a mortgage or home loan. So you might be able to get support for mortgage interest, SMI, SMI, instead of the housing element. That means in practice, your mortgage is not going to be paid. You only pay your interest on your loan. So support for mortgage on your interest, your mortgage interest, support for your mortgage interest, SMI, is a loan that can help pay for the interest on the mortgage or home loan. You borrow this money from the government. The rest of the housing element are grants. They are money given to you, known as benefit, which you don't pay back. But if you are buying your house and you are also borrowing the money, you are actually on credit, on mortgages or loan, you borrow a loan from the government to pay, to support your mortgage interest. To get SMI, you will need to wait for 3 consecutive universal credit payments. This is called the waiting period. Before the 3rd April 2023, claimants had to wait for 9 consecutive universal credit payments before getting support for mortgage interest. So they couldn't earn any money from work during that time. For people who own their own home, these might still be able to get housing element for service charges. This example would apply for somebody who might have bought their homes outright or borrowed them one way or the other. But the essence remains that service charges being applicable, the housing element may still be paid for these service charges other than for the housing cost as of direction. So they will need to wait for 9 consecutive universal credit payments without earning any money from work. If they do, things may change. The continuity aspect might break and they won't get paid anything. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment below on what this information provides, being a public policy on money given in the UK for people who need it. So we are actually, for example, having a waiting period. We previously got other benefits. So the waiting period is shorter if you got one of the following benefits immediately before: universal credit, income support, income-based job seekers allowance, income-based employment support allowance. So income-based employment, each month you spent on one of those benefits count as a month toward the waiting period of support for mortgage interest. So this is some of the rules. So if you're already getting help with housing costs from these benefits, then you can skip the universal credit waiting period for SMI, support for mortgage interest payments, or service charges. If you want these benefits but still waiting to get help without housing costs, or with your housing costs as it is, your universal credit waiting period is reduced. So your universal credit waiting period will be 273 days minus both, and the number of days you spent waiting for help with the housing costs, the number of days between the end of your previous claim and the date you are awarded universal credit. If you are on ESA, income support or job seekers allowance, your waiting period can be affected by the linking rules. You can read more about the linking rules for ESA or see the CPAG Welfare Benefit and Tax Credits Handbook. These are references of material found online. Check them out. Watch this video and the rest of the videos to find out gov.uk or Citizen Advice public website waiting period. If you have a split up with your partner. Thank you for watching. Share with family and friends, and leave a comment, click like, and click notification bell. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good morning. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. We are talking about money given by the United Kingdom to people who need help. and this money is known as universal credit. We are looking at the housing costs. Let us see what happens when you want to work out your housing costs. Visit the gov.uk and also other websites online in the United Kingdom or wherever you may find those information about the United Kingdom. It's about the United Kingdom government. So thank you so much, everyone who have been supporting this channel, subscribing and sharing the videos with family and friends. And I'm so happy that you are being participating, leaving comments, and giving really some useful feedback. And I'm so happy. Let us look at housing element, housing cost. Watch this video and the rest of the video. This is a continuation of the.
Lupanga Warrior